Hello, I'm Colin Raby, CEO of FarmSmarter.ai. You can find it at farmsmarter.ai or farmsmart.ai. And today we're going to be going over how to use the chat feature on our website. So this is kind of where everything started. When we were building this platform, we set out to make the platform for agricultural intelligence. And the chat component of this platform is one way you can interface with our cutting edge agricultural AI. Now, as you can see, when you go onto the homepage, you can access the chat page just by clicking chat here and give it location access so it can give you information tailored to your individual location. Or if you want, if you're using the AI assistant here, Farmer Al, if you ask him a question that the chat is required, he can route you to it. So, how do I use dicamba, for example? If you type that, it'll bring you right to the chat page as needed, right? So you can do that. I'll go ahead and go out of here, and it will automatically populate in that question. So the chat page, I'm going to walk you through here, and then we'll show a couple of examples. So as you can see, here's a couple of just suggested questions right here. Very arbitrary, just questions you can ask. The nice part is you should be able to ask this any question about agriculture, particularly specific agricultural questions that are affecting you as a grower or consultant, and it can get you those specific answers, right? So the more specific you are in the questions, the better, more specific it'll be able to help you in the answers. However, it can ask you some questions along the way. As you see here, we have our field selector. So if you want to ask a question about a specific field, because in a lot of instances, the location matters. Whether it's regulations or research, some of the stuff is very location dependent. And so you can select which field you want to talk about, and it can give you that specific information. So for example, do this test field in Point Coupé here. And if you're wondering where those fields are set up, as you can see, if you go onto the GIS mapping page, we have all these different fields mapped out. How to use this particular page will be covered in another tutorial, but for this, we're just going to assume you already have your fields mapped out. So you can select that field. Also, you can identify plants, insects, fungus. If you're using it on your laptop, you can upload a picture, or if you're using it on your phone, you can live identify some of these things. And you can even download the model locally so you can use it without internet. However, again, there's going to be a specific tutorial on using the identification later. And then other tools. Currently, the main other tool that we provide is being able to export your chats to PDF. Additionally, you can see all of your old chats right over here. So as you can see, all these different old chats that I had. And over here, you can get information about your particular profile. So this is really where if you wanted to edit anything about your profile, say your name, say any legal information, etc., you could do that. And it also has links to other parts of the platform. So then we get down here. You say, what's going on here? Well, the entire chat page is this network of AI agents. You can think of it as a bunch of experts that are able to contribute to solving your problem, right? It's like if you sent a message in a text chat to a chat with a whole bunch of different agricultural experts, from an expert in EPA regulations to an expert in extension center research to an expert in safety. All these experts are able to talk and then get you a really good answer. So as you see here, if you select this model selector, there's a couple different models that we have available. We have the agricultural core model, which is probably what you're going to use most of the time. Basically, this is like sending a message to all of those experts, right? You just send your question, all those experts debate it, and then give you an answer. However, if you want a quicker answer, and you know that your answer can be found in extension center material, or you know that your answer can be found in one of the 16,000 EPA-approved pesticide or herbicide labels, you can use the pesticide model to get a lot quicker answers. You can also, we have the soil sense that's in beta, where you can upload a soil test and get an analysis of what to do based on that soil test. So depending on what your nitrogen, phosphorus, pH, etc. levels are, it can say you might need this much keserite, this much urea, etc., and give you some hints on how to apply that. Additionally, we have this geosense model that's in beta that can understand all of the satellite information about your field. So if you're asking it specific information that has to do with some certain soil nitrogen levels or the NDVI information, you could try using that. Eventually, this geosense model is going to be combined with the agricultural core model, but for now, it's its own thing in beta. And then down here, you can see this grants custom chatbot. you're probably not going to see this when you open up your chat page. What this is if you are an organization or an individual that wants particular documents or a particular customization of the model, we can make custom models for you. And so this is just an example of a custom model that we have internally for testing. So first, I'm just going to pull up the pesticide model here. And we're going to use this to get information from a pesticide label. Now, before we do that, just a quick assessment of what these buttons are for. This has some information about what's going on that we're going to update with additional informational assistance. This is a location bar, so you can change what state. Obviously, because I allowed for location at the beginning, it's going to direct me to Louisiana. However, let's just say I was asking about some fields that I have in Mississippi or Tennessee or somewhere else. We could select that so that it knows, oh, I'm looking for information here. Now, that isn't needed if you select a field. So if I select a field somewhere else, it'll automatically have that location. But if you don't select a field and you do want to customize what location this is being drawn from, you can go ahead and select it here. All right, so let's see an example of using the pesticide model. So in this example, I don't have any fields selected because I know that the question is contained in the documents, right? The ESA labels and the extension research. So let's say I want to find out what is the application rate of Tigris dicamba on sugarcane, right? And so if I had a field selected that was tagged as sugarcane, I could just select that field and just say, what's the application rate of Tigris dicamba? It would know not only the location of the field, but also that it was sugarcane. But in this instance, since I don't have a field selected, I'm just telling it for sugarcane. And so then what it's going to do is first it's going to try to figure out what I'm asking in case there's any misspellings, right? So as you can see, it found Tigris dicamba label. So it's going through it, reading through it to find the information relevant to the question I asked. So as you see, it's done. It finished reading through it. It got the information. And now it's just packaging that information into an answer to give to me. There you go. Really quick, it was able to give this information. And in fact, in this instance, it gave two different answers. It said, we found some documents from the Louisiana Extension Center that give some information about applying it, and then we found information from the label directly. So it gave both the Extension Center information and the label information. And then it cited each. So as you can see here, we have the Extension Center information, and it brings you to exactly where it got that information from. But then also, we have the label itself. And so it not only brings you to the label, but it brings you to the exact part in the label that is relevant to the question. So in this instance, it brings you to the sugarcane part of the Tigris dicamba label. And so as you can see, page 17, page 19, and page 22, which means also on page 22 down here, there was some interesting information that it pulled of applying during the growing season. Now, if we create a new chat, let's do an example of using the agricultural core model. So there's all sorts of things. Again, any particular agricultural question you have, you can ask this agricultural core model, and it's like getting a recommendation from a panel of experts. So let's look at an example using the agricultural core model. And in this example, I'm actually going to select a field because the question that I want to ask is, can I use 3 CPA in my field, right? Just a very broad, can I use this chemistry in my field? And I'm going to go ahead and select a field that is in Point Coupee, Louisiana. So let's go ahead and get test LA restrictions Point Coupee, right? Done. Now, turns out that there's some actually very specific restrictions on what can and cannot be done in Point Coupee that would be very easy to miss. So this question is really good for making sure that it's able to get that information. So I'm going to go ahead and send in that question. Can I use 3 CPA in my field? Now, the good part is Farmer Al is supposed to make sure that it really understands the question before doing the analysis. So we'll see what it's able to find. And again, you can always just click away from this and come back later to get the final answer, because what this is going to do is, because it's a complex question that involves, whether it's effective, whether it's legal, whether it is safe, there's going to be a lot of experts contributing to this question, so it might take a little bit. All right, and we're back. I went ahead and cut to the final answer here. So as you can see a couple different agents were all involved in solving this. you can actually see some of those intermediary steps. It says this is an intermediate answer, not the final answer. But you can see the pesticide expert was able to get some information about 3-CPA with the scientific name of what it is, was able to gather some information about it. A safety and regulatory expert was able to give some context about it. And then we have our final answer, which is really all that anyone's worried about. Summary, can you use 3-CPA in your field? Direct answer, no. You cannot legally use 3-CPA in your field. And so, yeah, you can see, you can read through an answer, it's illegal. And the key thing is actually found the very specific reference in Louisiana Administrative Code, Title 7, Part 13, Chapter 11, 1103, where it says exactly that this isn't allowed. So if we go to this reference right here, as you can see, this is the Louisiana Administrative Code. 3-CPA is actually illegal to use between April 1st and September 15th in Point Coupee Parish, right? So it's able to get that context. And there's all sorts of other questions that this can be used for, and a lot of great references for you to go and validate, not only expand your own knowledge, but make sure that everything it's saying is in check. So there's all sorts of other things you can use it for. Someone the other day wanted to know the outlook for dicamba and said that they, even though they're an expert in keeping track of these regulations, learned a lot from the question, what should I expect for dicamba application next year? As well as someone who wanted to know what was required to become a mosquito abatement chemical applicator, and it was able to find that information. Basically, any specific information that you want to understand about your field, you can get. And then, once you have that answer, if you want to share that answer with someone, it's as easy as going up to the top here, clicking Other Tools, and Export Chat to PDF. Now, you can either do this pesticide analysis and safety regulations, you can include those, or you can not include those. So I'm going to go ahead and not include those and export. And as you can see here, I have the question and the response with all of the citations included in the response that you can easily share with someone to share this information. So this is the chat component of our platform. If you have any questions or you want to share any results, feel free to reach out to us at support@farmsmart.ai. Try using the AI Q&A right here if you have any troubles. And we look forward to supporting your use and continuing to make this chat even smarter every single week as we continue to roll out updates that help everyone farm smarter.